My mom and kid pressured me to overlook my ex-wife's affair. Okay, this is my confession. I always thought I'd feel it when something ended. Like a shift in the air or a sound, a snap, a bang, something that could tell me this is it. But the truth is, it came quietly, like a shadow slowly swallowing the light in a room you didn't realize was fading. Our house was too clean, not in the tidy magazine way, but sterile, curated. Aaron liked neutral colors. Gray throw pillows arranged just so, white curtains that let in a lot of light but none of the warmth. Everything had a place, but the air always felt thin. She used to laugh more. That's one of the things I noticed first, how her laugh had become something polite, measured. It stopped reaching her eyes. There was this one Saturday morning, early fall, maybe late September, and I remember standing in the kitchen making coffee. The sound of the machine sputtering, the light cutting across the countertop like a spotlight. Erin was sitting at the table, scrolling her phone with that tight little frown she wore lately, like the world owed her something just out of reach. I poured 2 mugs, offered her one. She didn't look up. No thanks, she murmured and kept scrolling. It sounds small. It was small. But that was how it started, the accumulation of tiny disconnections, coffee rejections, missed glances, touches avoided. I'd find her awake in bed at night, screen glow lighting up her face, her expression blank or worse, slightly smiling. That was when my stomach first started folding in on itself. I'd ask what she was looking at and she'd say something like, "Just work stuff." I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to believe her, because the alternative meant facing something I wasn't ready for. We had a daughter, Mia. She was 10, maybe 10 and a half. She had these big brown eyes that reminded me of Erin when we first met, wide, curious, full of spark. Lately, though, she'd been quieter too. Like she could feel the static between us, the kind of electricity that wasn't thrilling but tense, like the air before a storm. One night Mia asked, "Are you and Mom mad at each other?" I froze. We were brushing our teeth, standing side by side at the sink. I looked at her in the mirror, toothbrush halfway to my mouth. "What makes you say that?" She shrugged but didn't meet my eyes. "You don't laugh anymore." That one hit me hard. I told her we were just tired, that grown-ups get stressed, that everything was okay, lies that tasted like mouthwash and panic. But the seed was already planted. I couldn't unhear her voice. I couldn't unsee Erin's smile. That wasn't for me. The day I checked her phone, I was shaking. I told myself I wouldn't, that I had to be better than that. That trust meant not needing to look, but I was past pretending. I waited until she was in the shower and her phone buzzed on the dresser. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize, just an initial, actually R. Something about that made my blood run cold. I opened the messages. It was like stepping into another life. Inside jokes, photos, late-night check-ins. "I miss the way you smell. Wish you were in my bed right now. Last night was incredible." I don't remember sitting down, but I must have. My legs gave out. The water from the shower kept running. There were other messages too about me. "He's so checked out. We're just co-parenting at this point. I'm done pretending." I put the phone down carefully, like it was a grenade I didn't want to trigger. When she came out, towel wrapped around her, hair wet and dark against her shoulders, she smiled absently, like nothing was different. And I just stood there. I didn't ask right away. I couldn't. The words felt like glass in my mouth. I waited until Mia was asleep that night, her soft breathing a steady rhythm in the room across the hall. I sat Erin down on the couch. She looked confused, maybe annoyed. "What is it?" she asked. I didn't lead up to it. I didn't build a case. I just said, "I saw your messages." There was a pause, a long one. Her face didn't crumple, didn't turn red. No shouting, no tears. Just a slow exhale. "I didn't plan for it to happen," she said. That sentence broke something in me I didn't even know was whole. I remember the sound of the dishwasher running in the background, that dull white noise of domestic life, the smell of the lavender candle she always lit at night, the texture of the throw blanket under my hand, rough with little pilled bits of fabric. I didn't plan for it to happen. I laughed, not out of humor, something darker. That's what you have to say. She didn't respond, she didn't apologize either, just stared at the floor like the consequences were inevitable now and she was just waiting for the moment to pass. I packed a bag that night, not even the right bag, just the old gym duffel from the closet with a broken zipper and a musty smell. I threw in clothes, my toothbrush, the charger for my phone. Erin didn't stop me. I left a note for Mia, told her I loved her, that I'd see her soon, that it wasn't her fault. I cried in the car, quiet, strangled sobs that surprised even me, not dramatic, just broken, like a valve had finally released. I drove to my brother's place across town. He let me in without questions. The next morning, my mom called. She'd always had a way of calling just when I didn't want her to. I told her everything. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I needed someone to witness it, to say yes, this is as bad as it feels. But she didn't. She sighed and said, "You need to think about Mia. She needs both her parents." "I am thinking about her," I said, my voice hoarse from the night before. "I know Erin made a mistake," she continued, "but people survive these things. You could go to counseling, you have a history, you have a child. Doesn't that mean something?" I couldn't believe it. I wanted her to be angry for me, to say, "She hurt you. That's not okay." But instead, she leaned into this idea of endurance, like the marriage was a war wound I should be proud to carry. That afternoon, Mia called me. Her voice was so small it barely reached through the phone. "Daddy, Mommy says you still love her." My heart was already unraveling. "She says you just need time, that you can forgive her. You can, right?" There was so much hope in her voice, hope I hadn't earned. I couldn't answer, my throat closed, I just hung up. That was the moment it all broke. Not when I read the texts, not when I packed the bag, but when I realized I was supposed to pretend it hadn't happened for everyone else's comfort. When the people I loved wanted me to minimize my own pain so the illusion could stay intact. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the loneliness that followed. The silence I thought was safety had become something else entirely. And I couldn't go back. The basement apartment had a low ceiling. I kept hitting my head on the doorframe the first week. Every time, a dull, almost comic thud, the kind you laugh at in another life, but here it just felt like one more thing I couldn't avoid. The place smelled like mothballs and old carpet, damp corners, forgotten plans. The window looked out at someone's tires, a small square of light at ankle level where I'd sometimes watch people's shoes passing. Sandals, work boots, sneakers, going somewhere, everyone else still moving forward as if the world hadn't split in my chest. I didn't unpack the bag for 3 days, just lived out of it like I might need to run again. I showered in the dark because the bathroom light buzzed too loud. I ate cold leftovers from plastic containers and watched reruns of shows I didn't even like, just to hear voices that didn't ask anything of me. When Mia wasn't with me, I didn't speak out loud. It was strange. You start to forget the sound of your own voice when no one's around to answer. I saw her the first weekend after I left. Erin dropped her off and stayed in the car. Mia came in dragging her little purple suitcase with the stickers peeling off. Her hair was in a ponytail, too tight, like Erin had been stressed that morning. "Is this your new house?" she asked, looking around like she was holding her breath. "For now," I said. She nodded, then walked to the futon and sat down cross-legged. "It's quiet." "Yeah," I said. The silence that followed wasn't comfortable. It was the kind where everything unsaid sits between you like fog. I made us mac and cheese, the kind from a box. She said it was too cheesy, but ate all of it anyway. That night, she asked to sleep in my bed. I held her until she fell asleep, her hand in a fist against my chest like she was holding something in. The second time she came over, she brought a drawing. Me, her, and Erin, stick figures holding hands, big smiles. She told me she made it at school and her teacher hung it up for a day. I smiled, but I felt like vomiting. She was trying to keep the picture together, just like everyone else. My therapist's name was Nadia. Found her on some low-cost counseling directory my brother sent me. I almost didn't go, almost canceled twice. But something in me, the thin thread that hadn't snapped, made me show up. She had that quiet kind of face, still but alive. Her office smelled like herbal tea and the faint sweetness of old books. She didn't push, just let the words tumble out of me, out of order, like puzzle pieces I didn't have the box for. "I don't understand how someone can say they love you and still betray you," I told her once. She leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Love and loyalty aren't always tied up together the way we want them to be. Sometimes people love you with a broken compass." That one stuck with me, a broken compass. I started thinking about all the times Erin seemed lost but refused to admit it. All the nights I asked, "What's wrong?" and she said, "Nothing." The way she'd turn her back to me in bed, a wall of bare skin I stopped reaching for. Was I perfect? God, no. I got quiet when I should have gotten curious. I buried stress under routine. I treated her like furniture sometimes, familiar, always there, taken for granted. But I never left, I never lied. And that mattered to me, even if it didn't matter to her anymore. I started going for walks. Late at night when the streets were empty and everything felt suspended. I'd walk past lit-up windows and imagine the people inside, cooking, fighting, watching TV together. I didn't want their lives. I just wanted to feel like mine wasn't the only one unraveling. My mom kept calling. I'd answer sometimes. Sometimes I wouldn't. She'd leave voicemails that started with "I just want to say" and ended with guilt disguised as love. "Maybe it's worth forgiving," she said in one message. "Maybe this is just what marriage is sometimes." I wanted to throw the phone. Instead, I lay on the floor for hours that night, the carpet imprinting into my cheek, letting the words roll around in my skull until they blurred. I thought about my parents a lot. My father wasn't a saint. Quiet anger, dinners with tension so thick the clinking of forks was the only conversation. My mother stayed, said things like, "It's just how men are." And now here she was, saying the same thing to me, only flipped. "It's just a mistake." No one saw me bleeding, not really. Except James. James worked in accounting at the office where I'd been showing up like a ghost in a suit. He'd been divorced 10 years. We weren't close, just hallway nods and the occasional beer at company parties. But he saw me one morning in the break room, eyes hollow, spooning sugar into my coffee like I could sweeten the ache. "You good?" he asked. I shook my head, not even a little. We sat outside on a loading dock and I told him everything. He didn't flinch, just lit a cigarette and nodded slow. "They'll all try to make you the villain," he said. "Don't let them. People hate when you choose yourself." He was right, that was the pattern. Erin framed it like I abandoned the family. My mom acted like I gave up too easy. Mia just wanted everything to be the way it was. But I was still bleeding, and no one wanted to look at the wound. One night I had a dream where Erin was in my bed again. She leaned in to kiss me and I let her. I woke up sweating, ashamed, angry, still wanting her, still missing her. Healing's not a straight line. No one tells you how often you'll second-guess your own pain, how grief can feel like nostalgia one day and rage the next. I started journaling, not well, mostly just scribbles, fragments. Why wasn't I enough? When did she start disappearing? What part of me still loves her? It wasn't about answers, just surviving the weight of the questions. Mia was the only thing that felt solid. Every second weekend, she came in with a new story, a new joke, a new drawing. She asked less about when I'd come back home. I think she stopped believing it would happen, or maybe she started accepting it before I did. One Sunday night before Erin picked her up, Mia asked, "Do you still miss Mommy?" I froze, looked at her, so small on the couch in her pajamas with the cats on them. "Sometimes," I said, honest. She nodded. "I do too, but I'm not mad anymore." I didn't know what to say. I hugged her tight, my face buried in her hair. That night I cried again, but not from loss. From something else, something quieter, like the first crack of light under a door. Not hope exactly, not yet. But maybe the start of something like it. It was a Sunday, late October. The leaves outside my apartment had turned brittle, that deep rust red that makes the world look like it's bleeding out. There was a smell in the air, wet bark, cold earth, something decaying but beautiful. I remember thinking, this is the season for endings. Mia was staying with me that weekend. She was getting taller, her face lengthening, baby roundness fatting into something more angular. I could see Erin in her features, which was complicated. Her expressions, the way she chewed her lip when she was thinking, how she folded her hands when she was nervous. Echoes of the woman who used to be my whole life. We'd gone for a walk that afternoon, her little hand wrapped around two of my fingers. We didn't say much. She kicked leaves and asked questions about the clouds. Normal kid stuff. I held on to that normalcy like a rope. We stopped at the corner cafe on the way back. I got a coffee. She got a hot chocolate with whipped cream and a tiny cookie balanced on the lid. She smiled and said, "It's the little things," which is something I used to say. I almost cried right there in line. Back home, we had cereal for dinner, Lucky Charms, her choice. She said, "It tastes like cartoons," and I laughed because yeah, it kind of does. And then it happened. She looked up mid-spoonful and asked, with that devastating softness only kids can pull off, "Do you still love Mommy?" My hands went still. She didn't say it like she was trying to corner me. She said it like she was peeking behind a curtain, trying to understand the shape of something that no one had explained to her properly. I could have lied. I wanted to, just to protect her, to keep the world manageable. But the truth was already living in my body. I felt it in the tightness in my chest, in the way my stomach turned when Erin's name came up. "I don't know," I said. "I think part of me always will, but that doesn't mean I can be with her again." She looked confused. "But if you love her..." And that's when it cracked open. I stood up too fast, packing, the bowl of cereal still in my hand, milk sloshing. I put it down on the counter and pressed my palms against the edge of the sink like I needed to hold myself still. "Because she lied to me, Mia," I said. My voice came out louder than I meant it to. "She broke something that can't be unbroken." I turned around and her face had changed. Her eyes were wide, unsure. "Everyone keeps telling me to forgive her," I said, softer now. even you, and I know you don't mean to, baby. I know you just want your parents to be okay, but she hurt me, and I'm allowed to say that." Mia blinked hard, tears welling. "I just want us to be a family again." And that was the arrow through the chest. I sat down next to her, took her little hand in mine. It was warm and sticky from the cereal. "I know, sweetheart, I want that too, but not if it means pretending everything's fine when it's not. Not if it means teaching you that love means letting people hurt you again and again." She was crying now, small, soft tears that slid down without sobbing. I pulled her close and she climbed into my lap like she was 5 again. I held her, my chin on the top of her head, and we just sat like that. I didn't know how to make her understand the weight of betrayal, that it's not just about what happened, it's about how it changes you, how it reaches into your sense of self and rearranges the furniture. After I put her to bed, I sat on the edge of the futon for a long time. The street light outside cast long shadows across the floor. I felt hollowed out, like someone had taken a shovel to my chest and left a crater. I opened my phone. Aaron had texted earlier in the day, something casual. "Hope Mia's having a good weekend. Let me know what time to pick her up." I stared at the message, read it 3, 4, 5 times. I thought about the early years when we were in our 20s, still dumb and hopeful, sharing shitty wine in our first apartment, falling asleep on the couch during movie nights. Her laugh back then, how it filled the room. The way she used to touch my neck with her nose when she thought I was asleep. I thought about the moment I first knew I loved her, not when she said it, but when I saw her crying during a movie and trying to hide it. She was all softness back then. And then I thought about her body next to someone else, her fingers texting someone good night while I slept beside her, her silence when I asked if she loved me. I thought about all of it, the sweetness and the rot. And then I blocked her number. It wasn't a dramatic gesture, it was quiet, just a click. I didn't tell anyone, not even my therapist. I just did it, because I couldn't keep inviting her voice back into the room every time I started to breathe again. The next morning, I texted my mom, told her I loved her but I needed space, that I wasn't going to keep explaining myself to people who only wanted to rewrite my story into something more comfortable. She sent back a thumbs up. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting the thread. I went outside, the air was crisp, a little cruel. I breathed it in anyway. I walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench by the playground, watched the kids swing and shout and tumble like nothing in the world could hurt them. And I let myself cry again, but this time it wasn't out of grief. It was a kind of shedding. Like something I'd been dragging finally loosened its grip. Maybe this is what confrontation really is. Not yelling, not rage, but choosing, drawing a line even if no one else sees it. Telling the past, you don't get to live here anymore. And meaning it. It's strange what stays and what fades. Some mornings I still wake up with that ache, the phantom limb of a life that isn't mine anymore. It's quieter now, less sharp, like the sound of waves after the tide has already pulled everything out to sea. My new apartment has bigger windows, real light, not just the dull, watery kind that used to slide in beneath the world. This light shows everything, the dust in the corners, the streaks on the mirror. It's honest. I like that. I kept the walls mostly bare for a while. At first, it was because I didn't have the energy to hang anything. Later, it felt like a kind of freedom, a blankness I didn't have to explain. Now I've started putting things up, not pictures of a past life, but little things that feel like me. A print from a local artist, a postcard Mia gave me that just says "You rock" in glitter pen. Mia's getting older. She doesn't ask if I'm going back home anymore. I think she knows that home has changed shape. Now when she visits, she settles in fast. She kicks off her shoes, makes popcorn without asking, chooses the movie, and throws a blanket at me like we've been doing it this way forever. The first time she called this our place, I had to go to the bathroom just to let the tears fall where she wouldn't see them. Not because I was sad, because it finally felt like something was growing in the place where everything had been scraped raw. I started painting again, not for anyone, not to be good, just to move the colors around. There's something about the mess of it, how the paint bleeds, how it doesn't obey, that feels honest. I mostly paint abstract stuff, things that look like bruises or storms or dreams that are trying too hard to stay together. One of them's hanging above my couch now. Mia said it looks like feelings exploding. She's not wrong. My therapist, Nadia, says healing isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming someone new who can carry what happened without collapsing under it. Some days I still collapse, quietly, in small ways, a song in a grocery store, a scent on a stranger, an email from the school addressed to both parents. But then I breathe, I come back. I've stopped trying to win the narrative. For a while, I kept imagining conversations in my head with Aaron, with my mom, with people who heard a version of the story where I was the one who gave up. I used to rehearse what I'd say, how I'd defend myself, how I'd lay it all out like a court case. Look at the evidence, look at what she did. But I don't need that anymore. I don't need everyone to understand. I just need to understand myself. And I do now, more than I ever did. I've learned that silence isn't peace if it means disappearing yourself to keep others comfortable. I've learned that forgiveness is a beautiful thing, but only when it's a gift, not an obligation. And most of all, I've learned that love without trust isn't love, it's survival. Aaron reached out once through a mutual friend, asked if I'd be open to a conversation, no pressure, just closure. I said no. Not out of spite, just finality. Some doors don't need to be reopened. Some stories don't get a sequel. And that's okay. My mom's still not entirely comfortable with the distance I've placed between us. We talk, but less often. The conversations are lighter, more performative. I've learned to accept that she may never fully understand. That's grief in its own right, grieving the parent you hoped someone could be. But I'm no longer trying to earn her understanding or her approval. James and I still grab lunch sometimes. He's blunt in the way only someone who's done their own bleeding can be. He told me once, you get a lot quieter after you survive something like this. You talk less but mean more. He's right, I'm quieter but not smaller. There's a solidity in me now that I never had before. I've stopped counting the months since I left, stopped marking the date like an anniversary of pain. It just is now, part of the terrain, like a scar, something you feel every time it rains, but that doesn't own you anymore. Sometimes late at night when the apartment is still and the lights are low, I sit on the floor with a cup of tea and look at the painting above my couch. The one Mia said looked like feelings exploding. And I think about how much has changed. I'm not in love with Erin anymore. I don't hate her either. I think I just see her now for all of who she is and for all of who I was when I loved her. That version of me, the man who stayed quiet to keep the peace, who thought endurance was the same as strength, he deserved better. I mourn him too. But I'm proud of the man I'm becoming. He's honest, he's tired, yes, but not hollow. He's building something, even if it's slow and clumsy and doesn't look like much from the outside. He's showing Mia that it's okay to walk away when your heart is breaking, not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing to live. He's learning that wholeness doesn't mean unbroken. It just means true. And this life, quiet, imperfect, deeply mine, is finally starting to feel like home.